Welcome back to the Rodecast, guys. Hope you're doing well out there. I'm your host, Rod, as always. And in this video, we're going to be looking at more good news. And that is because migration patterns from the south are shifting away from the north, meaning that people from Latin America are not coming to the US and Canada as they did before. And this is, of course, driven by the tough stance that Trump has taken, and specifically through DHS and Border Patrol, where they're preventing people from coming in illegally. And even if you do come in and seek asylum, 9 out of 10 times, you're going to be denied and you're going to be heading back to where you came from. So there's really no point in coming anymore. And that's why most people are heading south instead of coming north. So they're going to South America and other countries instead of coming to America. All of this is brilliant news as far as I'm concerned. I think you guys will agree. The USA Today here doesn't seem to agree. They're very sad about it and somber about it. But nevertheless, we're going to be looking at good news here.
President Donald Trump campaigned on securing the nation's borders and deporting undocumented immigrants he described as dangerous criminals. Since taking office, his administration has pursued an aggressive enforcement agenda, deploying ICE agents, conducting workplace and neighborhood sweeps, and ramping up deportations. As a result, migrants planning a new life in the U.S. are increasingly reconsidering the risky trek north. Welcome to USA Today's The Excerpt. I'm Dana Taylor. Trump's crackdown on undocumented migration is now contributing to a reversal of flows in Mexico and Central America. Longtime immigration reporter Daniel Gonzalez of the Arizona Republic traveled to Mexico's southern border and to Panama to speak with migrants reevaluating their American dream. Daniel, thank you so much for coming on.
Migrants from any of these countries had no right to any American dream in the first place. America is for Americans, the people whose ancestors built this country, like myself and many others who've been here since the 1600s, whose ancestors have been here since the 1600s. Okay, whoever told the world that they can come because we're a charity for the entire world was a liar and most likely an open borders idiot. I don't know the first person who did this, but whoever did do it lied to the world. Okay, and these people are under a misconception that America is for them. And they need to stop with that misconception because America is not for them. America is for me and the rest of the foundational Americans whose ancestors built this country. Being American is meaningless if it means that everybody on earth gets to come to America. That's not practically possible, and ideologically it makes zero sense because then it makes being American meaningless if a Mexican can be American. No, Mexicans belong in Mexico. That's why they're called Mexicans. Words have meanings. And we have to operate logically based on the meanings of those words and put people where they belong.
Thank you so much for having me.
Let's start with what border crossing numbers look like now. How drastic is the change at the U.S.-Mexico border?
Impact at the southern border is very, very dramatic. I've been writing about immigration here in Arizona for 25 years, and I've never seen a situation like we have now where there's so few people crossing. We visited the border extensively back in April, and there were hardly any migrants crossing at all. It's a very, very remarkable, dramatic decrease in migration, following record numbers of encounters that were taking place during the previous 4 years. Just to give you an example, in August of 2023, border-wide, there were 232,000 encounters of undocumented people along the southern border. In August of this year, there were 9,000. So it gives you an idea of what a tremendous decrease we're seeing at the border.
So Juan here is sad about it. I think it's awesome. And 9,000 is still too much. But nevertheless, the people at the border patrol agents don't control how many encounters they have. The point is they're turning away all the illegal ones. Obviously, if they request asylum, they have to put them through the process. But many of them are just trying to illegally cross, and border patrol is just turning them away. That's all they're doing. Okay, or they're showing a show of force where they run back to where they came from. So that's what's happening. And again, 9,000 Still a lot, but nevertheless, it's significantly less than the number from last year in 2023 when we literally had open borders. There's no border patrol, so people just walked across. And there's literal video of that happening. News Nation went down to the southern border to open sections of the border, and there's no border patrol. So the people just walk in straight up from Mexico. It was disgusting and a disgrace. Our borders were completely porous. We literally had open borders under Biden. That is not a political attack. That is not an exaggeration. That is a factual statement of what our borders were like, at least some sections of the border in the South, okay, with our border with Mexico. So that's just a fact. And nobody can deny it who cares about reality.
People attempting to enter the United States, either asylum seekers or people trying to come in illegally.
Daniel, not only has migration slowed, but it's even reversing with many would-be border crossers turning around and going back south. Where are they going?
Beautiful.
Are they returning to their home countries?
Well, when we visited the southern border of Mexico and Panama, we came across this growing new phenomenon of people headed south. The people who are headed south include migrants who had been on their way to the United States, heard about the shutdown. They heard about migrants who crossed illegally being arrested and prosecuted on criminal charges. They've seen the footage of some of the aggressive ICE arrests taking place in cities around the country. And they just
So Julio here is wrong. They're not being criminally prosecuted because crossing the border illegally is a civil offense, and ICE is arresting and deporting them after a court hearing. There are no criminal trials. Okay, criminal trials are for people who committed other crimes other than just breaking in. Okay, usually even people who re-enter, that which is a felony, they just get deported. We don't give criminal trials to these people. So he has no idea what he's talking. He's not a lawyer. Clearly, he's a journalist. So I don't expect him to know the law. But I want you to know the law. They are not being criminally prosecuted. Okay, that would take forever if you were criminally prosecuting every single illegal. ICE gives them a hearing in front of an immigration judge, and as soon as the judge finds out they're illegals who just crossed without any request for asylum or anything, that they're gone. Okay, they get deported immediately. Usually within 2 months, they're going back to wherever they came from. Okay, that's how it works. And if they ask for asylum, they will have an asylum hearing where 9 out of 10 of them will lose because the immigration judges are denying asylum cases at record numbers, and great. And they're gone either way. They get their asylum denied, and then once again, within 2 months, they're out of here. Even with an appeal, they're still going to lose. And if they want to appeal, it takes forever. By the way, you have to stay in custody for months, sometimes years, because of the case backlog. So they don't want to do that. So they just decide to self-deport. They don't want to be in detention. So that's how it works. But they're not being criminally prosecuted. That's my point. This is the reason what they just talked about the aggressive methods deterring people. That's why it's important. That's why it's a strategic decision by Homeland Security, Stephen Miller, Kristi Noem, people involved in ICE. The reason that they're doing it in the aggressive and public manner they're doing it is because they want to serve as a deterrence to these illegals, these would-be illegals who would try to come. So it's been brilliantly thought out. Biden never did this. Even Obama never did this, where they made it so public. And really, the media wasn't paying attention so much during his time to the small number of removals that were happening from the interior. That's one of the reasons that they're just not even bothering anymore, because they don't want to be hunted down like they're being hunted by ICE. And so they're just leaving to go to other countries. And all of this is very welcome news as far as I'm concerned.
It wasn't worth it for them to continue on their journey to the United States.
I don't care what kind of problems you're having in your country. Go solve your own problems. Okay, that's the message we need to send. There is no American dream for you. You're not an American. I'm an American. I have an American dream. I was born here. My ancestors were born here. For 15 generations, I've been here, and my family, okay, out of Delaware since 1638. So no, you don't have a right to an American dream. Okay, you need to go fix your own country instead of running away to ours.
Many of the migrants who were headed to the United States came from very specific countries, predominantly Venezuela, Cuba, and Haiti. And the migrants that we met who were en route were now trying to get back to either Venezuela or to another country in the region where they felt like they could try to maybe make a better life.
I want to talk about the people you spoke with, many of whom were hoping to.
See, that proves that they don't have to come to America, right? That's what the left always says. Oh, they have nowhere else to go. No, there's a lot of other places to go. And when you make it impossible or not worth it for them to come here, then they go to some other country where they speak Spanish, okay, where they fit in more and they can assimilate. Unlike in America where they don't belong. And all they do is make our lives miserable with their horrible selves being here and their horrible accents and their horrible Spanish language. Okay. It's better for them and for us when they don't come here and they go to a country like Brazil or Argentina or any other place that speaks Spanish.
Come to the US, some even selling everything they had to try and come north. Tell us about one of them.
When I arrived in Panama, we drove up to this little, basically a small little pier of fishing boats. And there were all these people gathered there, and they all had these plastic bags. And what they were doing is they were getting ready to board these fishing boats to head back to Colombia and then back to Venezuela. And I came across a man, a younger man, and his maybe was late 30s, and he was with his father, who
Uh-oh, so here comes a tearjerker. He's trying to make us cry about the fact about the poor illegals who are not able to make it here and the horrible plight that they have. So get ready to cry, guys. Get your tissue papers ready.
was in his 60s, and then they were with their extended family. There was a total of 9 people. And what had happened to them is that they were trying to get to the United States. They had stopped in the state of Chiapas, Mexico, where they were working in construction, trying to save enough money to make it to the U.S. border. And they were also waiting to see if these policies were going to continue. And when they saw that there was really no hope for them to get to the United States, they had decided to turn around. So they'd already passed from southern Mexico all the way back through Central America. Now they were in Panama, waiting to get on these boats to go back to Venezuela. And they had sold everything that they owned in Venezuela to start this journey. And now they were borrowing money to try to get back to Venezuela. I remember asking the guy, what's going through your mind right now as you get ready to get on this boat? And the guy just kind of choked up. He said, well, on one hand, I'm I'm happy because I'm going to be back in Venezuela with my family. But on the other hand, I'm sad because we gave up everything for this hope of achieving the American dream. And they had a
Whoever told people this lie, and it was the left, okay? It was liberals, Democrats, and some Republicans who told people to come here. People like Lindsey Graham who think that all these third worlders have some kind of right to be here. He's wrong. They have no rights. But nevertheless, these people like wasted their money and their efforts to do all of this because the left lied and told them that America is for these people. Okay. Venezuelans, they have a country. They're called Venezuelans for a reason. They belong in Venezuela. Okay. Americans are called Americans for a reason because we belong in America, like myself, who was born here and whose ancestors have been here for 15 generations. Okay. Every single country, every single person has their own place. They have their own country where their ancestors were born, where their cultures have developed. And people like open borders people, both from the left and the right, and just overall humans, people who believe in migration are people who want to go against nature's law. Okay, of staying where they were placed. They want to come to other places. They want to betray their ancestors. They want to betray their land, their country, and come to other people's country. And now look at this guy. Look at the somber way he's telling this story. He wants us to cry for this anecdote. These people, these 9 people. Of course, it's 9 people. It's a giant family, of course, trying to come in here, as they would, of course. And a good thing that they're not coming at all, by the way. Awesome, and thank Border Patrol for that and DHS for doing their job at deterring these people. But anyways, this guy is assuming that these Venezuelans had some right to come to America because the American dream, that's all they keep saying. American dream, the American dream. It's in the words. Okay. Read them carefully. American dream. Guess who the dream is for? It's for Americans. Okay. Not for Venezuela. It's not the Venezuelan dream. You need to go back to Venezuela and make your own dream in your own country. What annoys me the most is the ridiculous assumptions built into these ideas. The idea is that the whole world owns our country, built by my ancestors, by our ancestors, but somehow the rest of the world gets to come here. That is the assumption that I hate when it comes to the left. And I believed this when I was on the left too. I was a progressive for quite a time, time back when Bernie Sanders was running. I was a big Bernie guy, so I believed this. Now I accepted this without questioning. I did not even wonder about sovereignty. I didn't give a damn about borders. I don't know how I like even existed, honestly. Okay, but since I thought about those things, I changed my mind because borders and sovereignty are everything. Without them, there are no countries and there are no people, and everything our ancestors did is for nothing. So you need to think about these things. A lot of people on the left who are like out there protesting, they never give a single thought to how important it is to have sovereignty as a country, to have borders, to have limitations, okay, on who can come in. They don't appreciate any of that stuff because they've been so pampered in America because we haven't had a real conflict in America for a long time, since the 1800s. So Americans have gotten complacent and we take America for granted. I know I did when I was a liberal. We don't appreciate everything that our ancestors did to build this country. And we're letting it, that's why the left is so ready to let it go and turn it over to a bunch of third world savages who want to invade this country. That's where their thinking comes from. If you're ever wondering, they don't appreciate what we have here. That's the biggest problem. We have problems, no doubt. We've always had problems. Every country does. Okay. This isn't Valhalla. This is Earth. So we have problems here. But nevertheless, we should appreciate what we do have.
Give that up. And he also told me that we don't know what kind of situation we're returning to in Venezuela. As most people know, that the economic and political situation in Venezuela is very, very dire.
That is the problem of the Venezuelan people and their leaders. That is not our problem, Juan. This is their argument. Oh, things are so terrible. Yeah, go fix them then. Running away to America is not going to fix Venezuela. Okay? All you're doing is betraying your own people who still live there, your own families. How is running away to America going to fix Venezuela for the future? It's just going to keep getting worse if you don't do something. Okay? So these are not valid arguments. These are not thought out arguments. They don't care. They just want to come to America no matter what the cost. And not even giving a damn about what the American people actually want. We don't want you here. We don't want you here because this is not Venezuela.
Increased tensions right now going on between the United States and Venezuela, with the United States military strikes on alleged drug trafficking boats leaving Venezuela. So it was still a very, very dire situation. So it was very kind of mixed feelings that they had.
Daniel, this dramatic slow.
But I also forgot to mention the guy said that he's happy to go back to his family, and that's exactly how you should feel. Okay, you should be with your family and your people, wherever that is. I'm talking to everybody in the world, instead of coming to foreign countries where you don't belong, because you will always be better off with your own people.
Of migrants coming over the border is a solid win for the Trump administration. What do policy experts
and for America
say about this?
There's no question that this is a solid win for the Trump administration. That is what the Trump administration campaigned on, and they've been able to accomplish that in a very short amount of time. We're only talking about months into the Trump administration to see these dramatic changes. However, what policy experts will tell you is that.
And just imagine what we will achieve next year when the BBB funding really goes into effect, because we don't even have the new ICE agents trained and on the streets yet. So by next year, it's going to be even crazier and more awesome than this year, because there's going to be a lot more ICE raids, more Border Patrol raids, and just way more deportations. It's going to get supersized compared to this year. So if the left thought and the whiners who want open borders thought is bad now, just wait until next year.
The migrants themselves, they haven't disappeared. They didn't just vanish. The conditions that they fled in their countries have not changed. And in some of those countries, the conditions have gotten worse. There's this pressure being built up in Latin America now. You have to be aware that many of the migrants who left, for example, Venezuela, 8 million Venezuelans have been displaced since 2014. Many of those people never went to the United States. They're living in countries neighboring Venezuela. And now you have people going back into these countries. So what the policy analyst has told me is that there's this ballooning effect that's taking place now in Latin America, where the conditions that people fled have not changed, and migrants are kind of waiting things out, trying to find a better life that potentially could lead to another major surge somewhere down the road.
Daniel, you've clearly looked deeply into this issue for a very long time. What long-term policies, either from the US or Latin American countries, could address the root causes rather than just the symptoms of migration?
We've been, interviewing for many, many years experts who address these issues. And, what they'll tell you is that the long-term solutions, first of all, have to do with addressing the root causes in these countries that where migrants are leaving. And there are very, very complex issues: economic needs, jobs, opportunities, political stability, organized crime, gang violence, extortion, corruption. Those are all the different types of reasons that migrants are leaving their countries. Those are
And how is any of that our problem? Why is it up to the US to solve those problems? Okay. And sometimes the US has made dumb moves to try to solve them, like the CIA did, also for our own economic benefits as well. But there are people who are genuinely trying to fix these countries and make them into democracies. And guess what? It all failed because these people don't want our way of life. Okay. The whatever ways that, because these people have their own cultures, they have their own way of that they see the world, and they don't want to live like Americans. Okay, maybe some of them do. Some of them do. Some of them want to come here, but again, this is not their country. They can't come here. I don't care what they think. Even if they want to live just like us, they have no place here. Okay, so whatever problems you have with your problems, your economic problems, your dictator problems, those are things you have to solve. We had problems. It was called England, King George. We had a big problem here. Okay, we solved it ourselves. We didn't run away from America because we had the English Empire oppressing us economically. We solved our problem. We addressed it. Okay. And those things didn't work. So we had to go to war. That's called the revolution, where my ancestors, by the way, fought in the revolution, unlike these people. But nevertheless, we have to solve our own problems. You have to address your own dictators. You have to address your economic problems and whatever other problems you have in your country, corruption, whatever. That's your problem. I don't know how any of this has to do with America and why these people need to come here. Okay. And I don't care what problems they have. They're not getting in.
those are solutions that have to be addressed over years and decades. And if anything, what we're seeing now is kind of a backsliding of that, because many of those countries have been receiving millions of dollars of aid from the United States that has now been eliminated, decimated by the Trump administration.
Good. Again, we have no responsibility to help any of these countries. Sad day for them. That money is for us. That's our tax dollars that are being stolen and sent to foreign countries where we don't even give a damn about these people.
That were meant to provide some kind of stability in those countries, some kinds of, job opportunities and security. And then the other long-term issue is that what experts will tell you, there are many, many.
Look at the ridiculousness of what he just said. We are responsible, according to him, and he's lamenting the fact that money has been taken away from job programs in foreign countries. He literally just said or implied that it is up to the US government to provide job programs for these countries, for foreign countries in South America. Hilarious. And Central America.
Meant to provide some kind of stability in those countries, some kinds of, job opportunities and security. And then the other long-term issue is that what experts will tell you, there are many, many sectors of our economy are heavily dependent on immigrant labor, sectors like construction, hospitality.
That is because you have made it dependent. That is because the Democrats and some Republicans have made it that way. And now you're whining about it. Look at this, okay? It's like somebody hooking you on some drug and then claiming, oh my God, you're hooked on the drug. Let's get you more drugs. We got to import more drugs because you're hooked on it. Yeah, because you hooked me on it. Okay. They hooked the capitalists on the corporations and people who only care about money on these illegals who will work for cheap, like in construction. And now they're lamenting the fact that they're being deported. When the illegal labor is being cut out, they attack the people cutting them out instead of attacking the people who hooked us on the illegal labor, which would be the Republicans and the Democrats working together to, get cheap labor for their corporate friends. That's what happened, like Reagan and many other presidents, both Democrats and Republicans.
Agriculture work, caregivers, elder care. But currently our immigration system does not have clear opportunities for people who want to come and fill those labor needs. People always say, well, people just need to come, the legal way. Well,
No, I don't want them to come legal way, Juan. I don't want them here at all. And those labor needs will be filled by Americans and can be filled by Americans. You're a liar or you're stupid and you don't know, but real Americans will work those jobs if they're paid properly. Okay. Are not going to work for slave wages. But again, the corporations and big business and even middle level businesses like construction companies have gotten hooked on illegal labor. Now they don't want to get off of it. That's why they're whining. That's why Juan here is whining. Okay. But there are Americans who will take those jobs, as we have done before the Latin taco invasion happened into our country. Americans worked those jobs. White people and black people worked those jobs. And it can go back to that when they're gone.
Legal way in the United States right now is you either have to have someone who's in the United States who is a legal permanent resident or a U.S. citizen who can sponsor you, or there has to be an employer who can sponsor you. Those are the main ways to come to the United States legally.
And we need to get rid of both those ways, because I don't want any of these people coming to the U.S. They have no right to step foot on our land.
If you are like many of the migrants who are coming to the United States and just want to come here for a chance to build a better life, for the most part, those opportunities do not exist.
Good. I don't want them to build any kind of life here. They don't even deserve to exist on this land. Okay, that's the bottom line. They're not Americans, and they will never, ever, no matter what they do, be Americans. Okay, being American is not a piece of paper. Being American is about blood. It's about fighting for this country and all the wars that have happened. My family has done that since 1638, including fighting in the Revolution out of Delaware. So yeah, this country is not for foreigners. This country is for Americans. And Julio here and Shaniqua don't understand that. Okay, they all they want these invaders to come and take over. It's not going to happen. Okay, and we finally have an administration who's actually doing something about it, and they need to do a lot more. Okay, they need to do a lot more. But anyways, we'll see what happens. There's nothing but good news. None of these people belong here, and it's great that they are not coming here anymore. They're headed south. Great. They can be with their own people where they can speak Spanish instead of coming to America and having to learn English, and not so well either. Even their freaking children, their anchor babies, can't even speak English without an accent. It's disgusting. But anyways, this is all great news. That's all I got to say for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys all in my next one, as always.